My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paulini and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Yo, hello Vansh. Apparently I have the WTA draw here pulled up. So that's probably what we're going to start talking about. But maybe, you can tell me today, probably the morning for you when you saw the Rome draw, either men or women. What was the thing that you were looking for? What was the thing that excited you the most?
Well, since we're talking about the women's draw, I'll start with that. I was looking to see who are the names in Iga Swiatek's section. Is Coco Gauff in her half? Is Mira Andreeva in her half? Is Yelena Ostapenko in her half? That's what I was looking at. Those three names.
If you start with that, I can't really show you the whole half because you're not going to be able to see anything, guys. But let's talk about that Iga Swiatek draw then. Let's talk about some of the early danger she's facing here. Obviously, this is going to be a pretty important event for her. She didn't defend her Madrid title. She has pretty much the same position in Rome. Obviously, last year she won almost everything there was on clay. So, what are the chances that she's going to get knocked out early? Are there opponents who are going to be able to threaten her? Or is it just all in Iga's head right now? And basically anybody who we see on the screen right now can be a threat to her?
Well, I think the number of players that can trouble her in Rome is just going to be less just based on the conditions. And also, there are some quality players here. Obviously, Svetlina's been in great form. She's number 7 in the race. She's been winning a ton of matches. Takes a pretty good level to beat her right now. But even before that, you have Danielle Collins, who obviously, given their history, and it's a little bit like the Noshkova match, where Iga leads it like 6-1 or 7-1, but all their matches have been either extremely tight or hard fought. Iga wins. And also Collins is going to be extra motivated just based on with their one-sided beef that happened last time, and the Olympics match will be fresh in her mind. So, and she only has to win one match in order to get there against Kudermetova or qualifier. So, that will be an interesting one. I'm personally not of the opinion that Iga is in major danger of losing that match, but it certainly could get tricky. And then same thing with the Svitolina one. I think it's another match that Iga will be pretty prepared for. But at the same time, she's gonna just need to bring a really good shot quality and level right from the start, and she might get punished if if she starts out really slow, or we see some kind of the up and down type of matches that we saw in Madrid. But overall, you still have to like her chances to make it pretty far. I mean, she's been making quarterfinals, semifinals of every single tournament, and she's playing kind of like a world number 4 or 5 right now. So I kind of expect that to continue. With her floor being a bit higher in these conditions.
John said that someone got angry at me for saying that Jack Draper is the new Taylor Fritz. Maybe I should say that Iga Swiatek is the WTA Taylor Fritz. If she's playing world number 4 or 5. But anyway, obviously I second a lot of what you said. I think the Collins matchup, indeed, it has a lot of similar qualities as in regards to Noskova, but probably even more motivation for Danielle to just come out and, just want to kill Iga and want to hunt her down. Now, is this going to be possible for her in Rome? Presumably not. But Svitolina could be a threat. They've played a lot of good encounters as well. Some of them were very difficult, even though you might still not, believe that based on the, let's say, the overall record or whatever, or because of Iga winning that in straights like in Indian Wells. But it was actually a very good match. So certainly, I'm not looking at this encounter as something easy. By the way, Miami, not Indian Wells. And that maybe is the biggest threat for me to circle in this part of the draw for Iga. So probably Svitolina rather than Collins. But of course, if they play with Danielle, it's going to be a lot of just tweets and stuff on social media and on websites about it, because clearly it's a matchup that brings up discussion. And indeed, the one-sided beef does a lot of that work. So you mentioned that you were looking out for Ostapenko and I think for Goff in her half, right? And one of these players is here.
Yeah.
So what is the chance that they actually get to meet, considering Helena would have to reach the semis and Iga would have to do it as well here?
Well, Ostapenko has to win 4 matches, and she does have some tough players she'd have to get through before then. So it's probably not very likely. I mean, just probability-wise, just given how Yelena's year has sort of been feast or famine, really. 2 really good runs and then a lot of first-round losses. And it's like kind of far away for her to keep that motivation extremely high. But I'm interested to see what happens if she does play like Bohova, who's been injured for a bit, and that could be a possible third round match. How does Jasmine Paolini look? Like there's still a lot of questions for Ostapenko and tests for her to get through in order to get to the semis. So I'm not really thinking about that match right now because Jelena still has to win 4 matches.
Feast or famine is exactly how I described John Silk's diet in Portugal, because I was screaming at him for not eating anything during the day and also not getting enough protein in. My recent nutritional interests definitely played their part in me just being very frustrated at how John was treating his body. But anyway, that's not the most important thing right now. But indeed, that's what I said, that he's in a constant sense of feast or famine or something like that. Anyway, if not Ostapenko, then who are we liking from maybe even the whole half of the draw? Because Jessica Pegula, Jasmine Paolini, these are probably not the strongest top 8 seeds out there.
Yeah.
So there is potential here, I think, for someone surprising to pull it off. I mean, the unseeded players here actually aren't that strong either, it seems. So maybe someone like Schneider or Putintseva having a run, maybe Muchova if she's healthy, but of course that's always a big if.
Yeah, I was looking at Diana Schneider just because I love the way that she played last week in Madrid, and also the new partnership with Safina. It seems to already be paying big dividends. So, I mean, obviously it's only been 1 or 2 tournaments, so it's probably too early of a sample size to say that. But I kind of like slower conditions for her. She's won clay title before. I think she can carry that momentum from Madrid and that close loss to Iga, and she should be able to get through the Schneider Putintseva match. Like that could be very important in this section. Pegula, this isn't been. She is world number 2 in the live rankings right now, so this is a big opportunity for her actually to get that number 2 spot ahead of Roland Garros, maybe because of Goff defending semifinal points and Iga defending 1,000 points. Jessica didn't play any of the clay swing last year, so this is all just gain for her. So it will be interesting to see. But right away, she could possibly play Ashton Kruger, which won't be easy. Although she's dealt with her pretty well in the past, but obviously Kruger we know is like improving every week. So Lisa Morton has also given Pegula challenges, so I'm not really circling Pegula to the semis either. I feel like it'll be someone else, maybe Schneider or Putintseva or Muchova.
Yeah, I like that. I think the winner of Schneider Putintseva is a very solid selection to make the semis here, really. Pegula, I mean, Kruger, sure, she's fine, but I just don't know if she can win a few matches in a row with her playstyle in these conditions, particularly. Pretty wild for Jess to be, having that chance for number 2 right now. But I guess it makes sense. I mean, yeah, Iga and Coco dropping points, and indeed she wasn't playing this time last year. In case somebody is ever wondering what sort of conditions Diana Schneider likes and whether she won a WTA title in them, yes, she's won a WTA Tour title everywhere, so I guess she'll be fine, definitely. And yeah, that's probably who I'm looking for mostly here. I mean, here you have just a lot of like Jabeur, Muchova players who are not healthy and who probably will struggle to get a few matches together. So, of course, it might as well just be Jasmine Paolini, who produces another, well, not unexpected, but kind of like run as an constantly overlooked player But yeah, Schneider or Putintseva, that seems pretty solid to me here. And we didn't chat about this quarter of the draw, well, this section of the draw, I suppose, which might bring up a quarterfinal opponent for Iga. We've got Madison Keys, who is still, I think, number 2 in the WTA race. So obviously someone you have to look at. But at the same time, is she a guarantee here? Definitely not. But she does look like the strongest player around here.
This section is actually pretty interesting because, I mean, also you have Osaka at the bottom, who made the 4th round here last year and started to get some good momentum before the French, and she also has some momentum coming in from that St. Malo title. So I'm curious to see if she's able to keep that going. Right away, popcorn matches against Irani and also against Budosa. So that'll be very interesting indeed. But Keys, yeah, Keys should like her chances to get to the quarters. But that being said, you know, Peyton Stearns, she's good on the clay. She made the 4th round last week. She can play some good tennis, and Kalinskaya beat her in Charleston. So right away,
but then Keys beat her in Madrid, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. So they split their matches. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, maybe Stearns in these conditions would be better, just given her heavy topspin forehand and all of that. I'm thinking, but I still, if I were to pick, I would still pick Keys to the quarters. I feel like she's shown a good enough level even after the Australian Open, where she's been making quarters and semis, and then kind of losing to the top players like Sabalenka and Iga last week. So I'll probably stick with that.
Yeah, I definitely like Maddie's draw here. I mean, she bageled Iga in the quarterfinals in Madrid last week. It's looking pretty likely that they might meet again, actually. So I guess the seeds are pretty likely to hold here. I mean, just on the basis of Iga being so strong and then Keys having a pretty nice draw. I think, yeah, certainly there's kind of like a bit of a lack of contenders. Osaka, Badosa, I mean, they're both dangerous, but they're obviously just the 4th round. And it's no guarantee right now that Paula will be healthy enough. It's not a guarantee that Naomi will play a few good matches on clay courts, even if last year, of course, she had some obscene performances. And well, because we just looked at the entire bottom half, and this is, by the way, my first time looking at the WTA draw. I've looked at the men's for quite a while, but at the WTA draw, but already by just looking at the bottom half, I am pretty aware that the top has to be stacked because, well, I haven't seen Goff yet. I haven't seen Sabalenka yet, obviously. I haven't seen Andreeva yet, and I also haven't seen Rybakina yet. So, well, all of these players will be in the top half. So let's maybe start with that player who is going to be at the top here. And yeah, what are we thinking in regards to Aryna Sabalenka? I mean, she's such a monster right now that I kind of don't know if her draw even matters.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, her earlier, like, obviously these are good players, but you still would be picking Sabalenka because pretty much every match is on her racket right now, and she just has, you know, there was that year that she won Madrid and then she crashed out early against Sofia Kenin a couple of years ago, and you could get that rematch in the 3rd round here, but then Kenin has to win a match, and she's kind of a bit up and down, and I think Sabalenka is a better player on the clay than she was 2 years ago, with just more options and variety in her game right now. So you know, I don't think the first couple of rounds are worrying for her really at all. I mean, after that you have Kazakina, you have Eala. I mean, she should be getting to the quarters relatively comfortably. I mean, she might still have some competitive sets like we saw last week. It might not be complete smooth sailing, but you still would back her to pull through, I think, in this section, at least until the quarters. Then after that, I think it gets a little bit tricky because, like you mentioned, Andreeva and Goff and Sabalenka all in the same half, which makes it pretty stacked.
Yeah, I'm wondering what her head-to-head is against Diana Yastremska, because just from my memory, Aryna tends to struggle a little, at least, against opponents like that. And I was thinking, wasn't it like 3-1 for Yastremska? Let me see. Yeah,
Wow.
it is
Yeah,
it is 3-1 for
3-1.
Yastremska, but the last win for Diana was 2020.
Yeah, I think they played here last year in Rome. And
precisely,
it was like 4-2. So that's probably what I would focus more on.
Yeah, I agree about that. Although, just on a general level, I guess players like Yastremska, Anisimova, you know, and the likes, they do tend to trouble Aryna a little bit. Even this year in Australia, we saw a lot of matches like this against, like, Pavlyuchenkova, for example, who's also in this draw. So, yeah, I don't think it matters a great deal, but fellow big hitters tend to be a little bit more troublesome, I guess, for Aryna than the other players. So, something to look at. I don't think it necessarily matters right now. Let's go with Eala and Kostyuk because, well, that's the big name right now in tennis in terms of at least getting subscribers and everything. So let's look at that. What is Alex Eala likely to do here against Kostyuk?
Whoa, that's another really good first round match. I mean,
I'll be back in half a minute, but you can talk about it.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, Eala right now is one of the most popular players just in terms of commanding social media attention, YouTube subscribers. But more than that, I mean, she's building on the clay. She's won a couple of matches in the 125. I wonder, and also Kostyuk should be very encouraged by the run she had in Madrid last week. She came the closest to beating Arina Sabalenka. And she could play Kazakina next. I mean, honestly, I would pick Kostyuk. She's probably the favorite right now, just, more battle tested on the clay, just a better mover overall in general. And I don't think Eala is quite ready to compete against a player like that right now on the clay court. Certainly, I think if this was a hard court, I'd be probably giving her a bit better of a shot. But I'm very fascinated to see what happens there, because Eala, even though she has a slow serve, it's not easy for opponents to just attack it and just finish her off and play clean tennis. So I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, it would be quite something if Kostyuk and Sabalenka play each other 2 weeks in a row. I mean, still a long way. Like, Marta is not seeded here, so that's a bit rough for her that she has to play an extra match just to get to the Sabalenka rematch. But personally, that's the matchup that I would be the most interested in of all these of this eighth, let's say, right here.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're talking about, but yeah, in terms of Kostyuk, I guess Marta is just such a complete player that I wonder if Alex's kind of like unpleasant, tricky game can be that bothersome to her. But that might be kind of the key here. Of course, Alex is still very much untested at this level. I mean, Miami, she makes that big run, then runs into Iga. I mean, she loses that, but of course she's coming close again. So it would be great to see her play like 2 or 3 matches here and kind of know a little bit more about how she's going to be adapting to the tour, and also in these conditions, which probably aren't going to be too suitable for her. So yeah, I think it's a pretty interesting section for sure, but you've got a lot of players like Fernandez, Kostyuk, Kasatkina, who I think Sabalenka is then likely to beat in the potential 4th round. So likely in the end, this won't be like where we get to know that much about the rest of the draw. A bit stupid that they're using rankings pre-Madrid when the draw was held this Monday morning. Kostyuk should be seeded, says Joao. That is indeed not right. Yeah, I think on the ATP side they used the new rankings, right?
Yeah, they did. It's just like Indian Wells in Miami, then, I guess, where they don't do that. Like,
yeah,
they do it for the men, they do it for the women.
Yeah, but the draw was held on Sunday there, right? Not on Monday.
Yeah, so they should really be using this. Yeah, I think that's really unfortunate for Kostyuk. I was mentioning that when you were off the stream that she has to play another extra match, and I almost couldn't believe that she isn't seeded. Because I know in Madrid she was like 36, but obviously with the run there to the quarters, she would be seeded if they use this week's rankings.
Yeah, that's really wild that they're not doing that then, because obviously the rankings get updated like a few hours before the draw was made. It was noon Rome time, so yeah, I don't think that's ideal. But what can you do? Anyway, here we also have Rybakina, whom I mentioned.
Just one more thing, Sarah Grant is also in that section above, and she just switched from the US to Italy in terms of she represents Italy now. So that'll be interesting because she was actually born in Rome and she trained a little bit with Sinner at the Piatti Tennis Academy growing up. So
that's some good info. That's some good info from Vansh. It was good. It was it was worth it to invite you here. But yeah, anyway,
I haven't had the chance to properly see her play, but I've seen I've seen news about her and I've read about her, but I haven't actually like watched a full match of hers yet. So hopefully I get to do that.
Probably not. I probably haven't either. I mean, it's a name that's been popping up, since the junior days for sure. But I had no idea about this whole Italian backstory, or that she switched. Which, yeah, I guess makes sense given the wild card. I don't think they would be giving it to a random American junior. Anyway, yeah. Do you think I was maybe a little too? Because earlier I mentioned that the top half has to be a little stacked because Andreeva hasn't been. I haven't seen Andreeva. I haven't seen Sabalenka. I haven't seen Goff. And I also mentioned Rybakina. Do you think at this point we should kind of like stop mentioning her in these conversations, or does she still belong in them as like, you know, one of the players you have to watch out for in the draws, one of the top players on tour?
I still think you have to watch out for her. I'm not quite there yet where it's like, oh, we shouldn't stop. We should just ignore her and, you know, treat her like somebody just, yeah, not a contender. I mean, she's definitely not one of the top 4 or 5 contenders, but she's definitely like top of that next group, I would say, you know, because I don't think, I mean, she still had a pretty solid like first couple of months, 3 months, obviously still not at the standard of 2023 or 2024, but I still think she could catch form at any point in time. I mean, she beat Bianca Andreescu pretty comfortably in Madrid, and I know Bianca was obviously, you know, she's coming back after a long break and all that, and it's different Bianca, but still, she could win some matches here. Like it's like the draw isn't like horrible. So and also
Yeah.
Chen Wen is her seed, and she hasn't been in great form, and she's defending some points.
Absolutely. My trust level in Rybakina is still higher than in Kinven. And yeah, I think we should keep including Elena in these conversations. I don't know, for now at least, she kind of has this like credit in my mind where I'm not ready to just like say, okay, yeah, she's in a slump, she's probably not going to do much. I think it's still more of a like a time, you know, thing, like at some point she's going to have a big event. And yeah, I definitely still look at her in the draws, and I think she definitely belongs up there. Number 11 in the rankings, but I think that is slightly undervaluing her, of course. And you don't even need to like, you know, be very subjective about it. It is obviously undervaluing her, considering that post Wimbledon last year she was barely playing. So it's only really about her losing some of the points from the first half of the season last year when she was, you know, a machine, and then after Wimbledon, well, was barely showing up. Yeah, I mean, Zheng, I don't really have too much confidence right now. Maybe she will wake up at some point. Maybe she will just have an awesome Asian swing like last year. But presently, even making like the WTA finals or something like that, it's looking a bit far. And by the way, if you were to guess, where is Qinwen Zheng in the WTA race right now? What is her position?
Ooh, that's a good one. Probably outside the top 20, right?
I asked this to John in Estoril, and I wonder if your guess is going to be similar to his. Mine was much better than John's. So what's your guess?
21.
I mean, that's similar to what John said. I think he said like 18. I said 30, and I think she was 31st.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, because she made quarters in Miami and Indian Wells, but I guess that doesn't do that much.
Yeah, I think Joao is very right as well, that Olga Danilovic is a very tough draw right now. She's been obviously, yes, in weaker events, sure, like Rouen or the ITF she won in Antalya, or sorry, WTA 125. But I think Danilovic is a really difficult draw. And yeah, I was just like randomly saying, you know, like she's probably about 30 in the race, and indeed she was 31st. Also quite interesting is that she is sandwiched between the Kudermetova sisters. Anyway, I mean, that's I guess it about Qinwen here. But obviously, yeah, I mean, she could just go deep anyway. Like if she beats Danilovic, you know, it opens up. So who knows? Maybe at some point, this is another example, I guess, of a player like Rybakina, whose career obviously isn't done. I mean, at some point she's going to have better days.
Sorry, I'm just laughing because once again we have this little trio of Alexandrova, Raducanu, and Anisimova. They just can't avoid each other.
Yeah, that's Australian Open vibes.
Yeah. It's giving us
definitely. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, let's talk about Coco then. Obviously, Madrid was a big event for her, defeating Iga like this, and then she loses to Arena in the final, has a set point, but you can't be really like angry about it. And Jake is also right to point out that we can get a Goff Bencic again, which looks pretty likely too. So that would be another matchup that is basically happening all the time in 2025. So yeah, does this mean Coco is back? You know, Rome, this is a very good event for her, but she basically gets stopped by Iga, kind of like at Roland Garros. So I guess I would expect a pretty decent run for her, and she did just defeat Bencic comfortably, which was, you know, a display of strength.
Yeah, I mean, obviously her form was patchy from Australia till Madrid, but I kind of see this as like a big confidence boost. And great event for her in Madrid, and I kind of expected it to continue in Rome. Like Rome has been one of her consistent events, for sure, ever since she came on the tour, and I don't really see that changing. I mean, obviously, you know, the the two weaknesses might still come up in some big moments again, but I'm still be very surprised if you don't get Bencic and Goff in the third round, and I think that would probably give us some more info. I mean, Coco should be feeling pretty confident even in that. Obviously, Bencic can be extremely dangerous. It wouldn't be surprising if she won or something like that. But I think I'd still be backing Coco here to if not live up to her seeding, at least get to the quarters, and then kind of we'll see how the Anisimova Alexandrova section turns out. But right now, probably that's the most interesting part of this draw because Alexandrova has also been playing like someone like between 8 and 10 in the world this year. She's kind of been like the Francisco Cerundolo of the WTA in many ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ariana Zucchini, by the way, what a name!
Yeah.
I hope her second name is like Courgette or something like that. Anyway, that's just me showing that I have no knowledge of up and coming Italian girls because I think that's the first time I'm hearing of her. Anyway, yeah, I guess Goff. This is kind of like Goff Bencic might be the most important matchup here, but yeah, Alexandrova, Anisimova, obviously they're all so dangerous. Anisimova has already won a WTA 1000 this year. Alexandrova can just fire up at any point and basically destroy anybody she wants. So yeah, it's not looking like it's very pleasant for Coco, but as you mentioned, kind of similarly to Iga. I mean, this is just a court where she's going to have an easier time against, let's say, a wider, broader range of opponents. So why not? I do think she's going to be pretty strong here as well. And I guess we haven't talked about this part of the draw yet, where we have Mirra Andreeva, who after Madrid, I mean, she showed some of her inexperience, but it still doesn't matter. I mean, it still doesn't mean that she is like not a strong player right now and not among like the top 5, let's say.
Yeah. Obviously, it was not ideal for her to play the kind of second set she played against Coco after having the chances in the first. That definitely was like probably a step back for her, but still like second Madrid quarterfinal in a row. I still think she's like amazingly talented, obviously, and like she should be winning these kind of matches even against Linda Noshkova. Like that's a matchup that could be fun to watch. But I definitely would be backing Mira right now. I just think she's pretty strong, and especially in conditions like this. I mean, she should like these conditions. And I really want to see a match between her and Emma Navarro. I think that would be really interesting. I don't think they've played yet.
Yeah, I don't want to be boring, but I'm kind of just looking at Andreeva Goff in the quarters, I mean, they're both very strong. They both should be like major contenders for the French. They're both going to be tougher to upset in these conditions. So maybe we get that. But yeah, Noskova, Tauson, definitely some dangerous contenders here. Navarro is kind of also, similarly to Paolini, I guess, a player you often tend to like overlook. But then she goes and produces a beautiful run. So everything is possible. I guess maybe the last thing to ask about this women's draw is like, what do you think really has changed with it? So like, did any of the power ranking we had ahead of the tournament, is it really impacted by the draw in any way?
I think Iga's draw is a bit more favorable than it could have been, because she could have had any of those three names. Like, oh, I guess not Arena, but like she could have had either Coco or Mira in her section, and she didn't. And the fact that Ostapenko is so far away, I think that probably gives her a little bit of an extra boost. Like now I'm kind of thinking, she could get to the final, whereas I wasn't very sure after Madrid.
Yeah, I guess with Iga, like if you're looking at an event like Rome, not getting to the final is already disappointing, and especially considering where she is right now. So if I was to write a Nick Carter type of piece, yeah, I suppose I would say that the minimal expectation for her with this is make a final. I mean, it's brutal, but this is the sort of clay standard you expect from her. And unfortunately, if she doesn't, I'm just worried she's going to like descend further into this like pit that she's falling into right now. So yeah, it's harsh, it's brutal, but that's what Iga is on clay. I mean, she's supposed to be dominating these events. She wants to. Let's see if she's able to do that. I mean, we're not gonna like replay around with any major predictions, right? But I think we more or less answered who we think are the top seeds that will probably go far, and also who, like, what is the section where basically there's a big chance for someone unseeded. And I think this third quarter of the draw is definitely, or well, not unseeded, but let's say lower seeded or unseeded. So this third quarter of the draw definitely strikes me as one where the top 8 seeds aren't necessarily that strong, and there could be potential for somebody like the winner of Schneider Putintseva to go pretty far. I
guess what I would say is that I'm kind of expecting something like Madrid, where I think 3 of the top 4 seeds that make the semis could be pretty chalky, and then one kind of unseeded, one good run from someone.
Yeah, and then if like even if Andreeva, let's say, makes the semis, I would still count that as a
that
top
would
seed
count as
making
chalk.
it.
That would count as chalky.
Oh, that was count as chalky. If
Andreeva is still one of the 4 players left.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got that now. Never mind. Yeah, absolutely agree. So I think we should move on to the men. Maybe I'll enlarge it even further. But let's just start with the big story here. Obviously, the first player in the draw, Jannik Sinner. He's just coming back. We don't really know anything about his game. I mean, we know that he had that like weird, training ban or whatever it was, but it probably doesn't matter much. He was still able, he wasn't able to train like official clubs or something like that up until middle of April, but nobody was obviously stopping him. Oh, what happened? Nobody was obviously stopping him from. Yeah, I guess it's the producer doing stuff now. Okay, never mind. I thought it wasn't a computer. Anyway, nobody was stopping him from just practicing on his own, and he's been working hard to return. And now we basically just have to ask the question, like, how quickly is he going to be back? And also, is the draw allowing him that sort of space to, just play one weaker match or two and potentially still be in the tournament by then?
Yeah, obviously that's the biggest story, and kind of his draw was going to dictate whether, he might struggle the first couple of rounds, just because, he's just been out of the match rhythm for 3 months. But then you'd kind of think once he'd get through the first couple of rounds, he's so good that he can sort of just go through the gears and then maybe even win the tournament. That's kind of how I was looking at it. But then I think the draw on the men's side compared to the women's is more balanced, where it's like, all 3 of the top seeds, they all have like some difficult tests along the way. So I think Sinners is like that as well. We can get into it now, but like, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I don't think it'll be like smooth sailing for him to get to the quarters and semis here.
Yeah, let me show that. Sorry. Yeah. So, producer, don't make me angry. I need to show the Sinner draw because we're talking about it now. Anyway, here is Jannik Sinner, and obviously Mariano Navone is the likely opponent in the second round, as you guys can also see in the title of this video even. But yeah, I mean, this honestly looks pretty deadly to me. Navone, then Davidovich Fokina, then Serundolo.
Navone is going to make him hit a lot of balls, so that could be good for him, or it could be tricky.
I expect his standard to be high, but just Navone, Davidovich Fokina, Serundolo, it's really not that easy. China is not a typical clay courter, no, but I don't really think he has the weight of shot right now to trouble someone like Sinner, maybe not even someone like Navone.
Yeah, it's kind of like Zverev's draw in Madrid last week with the Davidovich Fokina Serundolo thing back to back. And I think Fran and Jannik played each other in 2023 in Rome, and Serundolo has a confidence of getting the win there. Obviously, Sinner is much better than he was 2 years ago, but still, he was the top player back then too. So that's kind of the one that I'm circling, Serundolo in the fourth round. I see that as like the trickiest, just based on form from Serundolo all year, basically, and also just how big the forehand is and how confident he is right now. And then ADF, I kind of expect the sets to be close, and you kind of expect him to trouble the top player, but then not really win. That's kind of his reputation.
The Djokovic Roland Garros match, right, is like the perfect example, I think.
Or the Zverev match last week in Madrid.
Yeah, I guess that's like even closer. But Djokovic Roland Garros, I think, was like 3 sets, and every single set was super close. But yeah, just no cigar. But yeah, most certainly, Davidovich Fokina and then Serundolo is back to back is extremely tough, and Zverev just showed us why. Both of them in great shape. Yeah, unless Jannik is like not ready to play, I still think he will probably pull through some matches here. But it's definitely tougher than the potential, like, I don't know. Well, tougher on the average draw, let's say, he could have gotten. And then Nicolas Jarry, yeah, let's actually mention him with Joao and Jake also mentioning for him. Also talking about him. So basically in the live rankings, he's outside the top 150 right now. So that's a jump of like 100 spots. He is defending 650, well, technically 640 points, since he's going to get 10 for even losing to Gaston here. Obviously, me and John just watched him in Estoril. Was it pretty? Was it good? Was it bad? I mean, I don't really know what to say. Like, basically, the guy was just playing like Nicolas Jarry, just come out, blast a big ball. When he had the moments, like, I don't know, 15 minutes when everything was clean and everything was coming together, he was unstoppable, but it was just far too little of that. And if right now I'm going to have to say whether he defeats Francisco Cerundolo, I mean, it's not a great chance.
No, I don't like his chances really here to get out of Gaston and Cerundolo back to back as it stands right now. But if he gets through that, then maybe Tiafo might actually be more winnable for him.
Oh yeah, I mean, if he gets through Cerundolo, the fourth round seems to be very makeable, and then you've got potential. Last year, Sinner and Jari, they played each other recently too, but I was just trying to say that never mind. I got lost. Yeah, Australia first round and Beijing first round as well. So Jari was a little unlucky to draw Sinner in two recent events, which probably also contributed to the fact that he has so few points right now. Well, let's maybe mention this part of the draw as well, because I think once Sinner is able to get through his, the second round, third round, fourth round, it would kind of ease for him, like, just because, Shelton, Korda, they're so, I don't know, just like mercurial on clay courts. Berrettini just retired in Madrid, and you've got Ruud, who of course is coming off the biggest title of his career, phenomenal achievement, fair play to Kasper. But at the same time, we don't know how he's going to progress with it into Rome. It's one of these situations as well where, like, if Kasper loses early in Rome, who cares now? I mean, he's already fulfilled everything he wanted on the way to Roland Garros. He's still going to be a top 10 contender for Paris. So I guess I'm not really seeing anybody here who would be able to defeat Yannick once he gets going.
Interesting, yeah. I'm kind of with you, but I also think maybe Ruud can carry the momentum, and who would you like in this section? Like, I'm kind of thinking either Ruud or Berrettini, one of the two.
Berrettini is, I don't know how healthy he is.
If he's healthy.
Kasper can just have a one weaker performance after Madrid. He's done that before, where he goes deep in one of these events, and then, I don't know, last year I think he lost to Kecmanovic in the second round.
Maybe Jaume Munar can make a run here. Like, why not? He's been having a fantastic season.
Has he? He's actually been very poor on clay, yeah.
Yeah, that's been surprising. He's been tearing it up.
Funnily enough, yeah.
Not been playing well on clay.
I think he's kind of struggling to adjust, He's added all these aggressive tactics on hard courts, and then his clay court game is now kind of struggling. But obviously, this is a part of the draw where, he can easily make the fourth round if Shelton and Korda aren't like on top of their games and aren't trusting their baseline, their ground strokes in this particular match.
Maybe. But yeah, I kind of think the third and fourth round are tricky, and then the quarters is easier, like you're saying. So.
I think so too. Let's talk about the Carlos Alcaraz. Well, actually, Carlos Alcaraz is here, not number two, not yet. Although this might also be a talking point, of course, because Zverev basically needs to win the title and needs Carlos to lose early in order to get the number two seeding. Anyway, Carlos Alcaraz, let's mention his draw. I mean, he didn't play Monte Carlo, and he didn't play Madrid, of course, after the Barcelona injury. I think that's fine, because if he was going to do the full clay swing and go deep in every event, something had to give. I mean, if you play 5 events like that in a row, you're probably not going to do that. Even Rafa wasn't able to do it most of the time. At least, one of them he had to skip, or I don't know, something like that, even in the seasons when he was perfect on clay. So I think as long as the injury isn't long-lasting, it's fine for Carlos to skip Madrid, but obviously it would be good for him to just have one more event ahead of Roland Garros in pretty similar conditions. And for what it's worth, I mean, this draw looks pretty perfect for him.
Yeah, that was my main takeaway. When I compared his first 3 matches with Sinner, I was like, actually, he's more likely to get to the quarters than even Yannick, which normally I wouldn't say, but based on this draw, it's good. Like, it's these first 3 matches for him, he should be getting through them, if he's healthy, obviously. And, in decent form. But Struve has given him problems before, but Struve right now in his current state, I don't really know if he's that big of a threat. And then obviously Mickelson has the confidence from winning Estoril, but he still has to beat one really good clay court in either Gera or Echeverry. So I'll probably maybe even they're probably more likely to get there than Mickelson. And then Dimitrov in these conditions and in general with his health and everything, I wouldn't trust him to really do something that big. Maybe Lorenzo Sonego can go on another run.
Yeah, I do think this is a very wild section of the draw outside of Carlos for sure. Yeah, I mean you've got Struve, who is won in the last 10 matches. I think it's that he's won, and he's the big favorite over Nishioka because Nishioka hasn't played and retired in his last two. So that already kind of shows you that it's not the strongest two opponents battling against each other. Yeah, Alex Mikkelsen, obviously Estoril GOAT, and he loves Estoril. It reminds him of California. I don't think Rome will remind him of California in any way. Rome might remind him of Georgia, and I think he reached the final at the Challenger event there, losing to Jordan Thompson. Anyway, that's really not important, of course. And Dimitrov, Khachanov, that's also not a strong section. These are opponents that Carlos usually beats, especially in conditions like this. Of course, he's lost to Grisha a couple of times in Shanghai, Miami, but not really when it's a court playing like that. So that's not that random, Gene. I mean, it's Rome and Rome. I know there are a lot of cities like that well, actually, Joao, I heard that there are supposed to be some thunderstorms and rain in Rome, but I don't know. I mean, I am still, very, very tan. So even though it wasn't that hot, even though there was some rain, I still feel extremely red, or maybe I should say brown. You probably can't see it on the camera too well, but anyway, or maybe you can see because of the contrast. Nah, I guess not in this lighting. Anyway, never mind. That's not the most important thing. Anyway, but yeah, really practically a perfect draw for Carlos Alcaraz in the first 4 rounds. Let's mention 4 rounds. Yeah, I was going to say 3 rounds, actually. Yeah. Let's mention the 4th round then, yeah. Is this perfect as well? I mean, how likely are Draper and Rune going to get there? Because to me, outside of them, there's no contenders here that could trouble Carlos, and both of them have a lot of question marks.
I think we're probably going to get Rune and Draper again. Rematch of Indian Wells, probably. Umbera is the seed here, and he's he doesn't really have a backhand right now, right?
Yeah, he's injured. He says that it's a little better on clay because he can just run around, but either way.
Yeah, obviously Holger, he's susceptible to some physical issues and all of that, but Rome, he should do really well here, especially after the early exit in Madrid. He's had a lot of time, and obviously
got a retirement in Madrid.
Oh yeah, retirement in Madrid. But still, he's had 2-3 weeks of, I assume, to get ready and be fine for now. And then, yeah, I mean, he might struggle a little bit against Altmaier and Comesaña, but then after that, I kind of see him getting to the Draper match. And I mean, who's the threat for Draper here? Baez?
I don't know. Nothing himself. Just the fatigue, the jump from conditions in Madrid to Rome. I don't think it's about the name. It's more about the situation. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I was kind of stretching it with the name. I don't really see the name actually. So.
I think Joao is very right to point to Sebastian Baez, and I think you're going to find people here who are going to be picking Sebastian Baez to make even the quarters. And I don't think it's insane. I don't think he will do it. I think he will find a way to mess it up. But if Holger isn't healthy,
last year, right?
Where he had it almost made it. Yeah, almost made it. Yeah, I think he'll find a way to mess it up. But if he is going to make a massive European run, this could be the draw. Draper could be tired, also struggling to adjust from Madrid. Rune, again, physical issues left and right. Darderi also struggling with something. Darderi, I guess, could be the name that troubles Draper if he is fit, which he wasn't the last 2 weeks. So to me, it's Draper and Rune. However, they have big question marks. And if it doesn't happen, many players can pick up the pieces, even though the unseeded players here actually aren't that strong. But yeah, Baez last week in Madrid, I guess 2 weeks ago, lost to Drumhur in the second round. So he really desperately needs to avoid losses like that if he is going to turn his career, just go up a level this year, which so far I guess he's just mostly repeated what he's been doing.
Yeah. So, but if you were picking, you'd probably go with Runa or Draper.
I'd probably go with Rune.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd probably go
If
with
Draper
Rune.
and Runa play each other again, though, in these conditions.
I'm assuming Draper won't get there. I'm assuming he's going to lose to Dardari or Baez. And that's, again, not really about Jack or these players. It's more about the situation. And similarly to how he struggled with Indian Wells, Miami, and Madrid, Rome, I think could be just like that. But yeah, I don't know. Jake, I think so. I mean, do you think it's mental? I don't know. Maybe in some matches, sure, like he had these chances against Hurkacz, but to me, it's mostly about, strength of the field. I mean, obviously, he can be beating guys like Jumhur, but I guess he's not just like beating them easily enough so that he guarantees to make these fourth rounds, third rounds, fourth rounds at the French, fourth rounds in these thousands regularly. And with that, he's not even giving himself chances. But then if he runs into a guy who's like top 10, he's usually just completely out of the match. I mean, the match against Rune recently was a good example, I think, where he wins a set against Holger, but then when Holger turns it on, it's just 6-6-1, it's over. And or like the Fritz rivalry for Baez is obviously such a landslide, really. So I do think it's more strength of the field than anything else. But maybe some nerves come into play as well. I mean, this is a guy who definitely should have a Roland Garros third round, and the fact that he still doesn't is pretty ridiculous. Anyway, let's talk about Zverev maybe. The first two rounds are pretty good for the defending champion, and as we said, he kind of needs to defend the title if he wants to have a top 2 seeding. But there is this one beautiful section here. From Fils to Tsitsipas, all of these players, by the way, are in the top 50. So even the unseeded guys, you've got Griekspoor like 35 in the world, Lehečka 38, I think, Miller 39, and Kecmanovic like 47 or something like that. So this is by far, I think, the strongest section, like player by player. And from Fils to Tsitsipas, whoever comes out of this will be, just so battle tested, maybe even worn out. We'll see. And one of them is going to give a test to Alexander Zverev, I think, the first test that he will probably get here.
Yeah, I second all of that. I think actually all of these players, except for maybe Kecmanovic on the right day, can really trouble Zverev. But yeah, mostly looking at Tsitsipas and Fils to do it. I mean, Fils, Griekspoor is also good. Obviously, Griekspoor we know can definitely trouble Zverev. It's just about can he finish the job, really. But
yeah.
And then I think kind of similar with Fils, but Fils, has beaten him now in a couple of really high-profile matches, Hamburg final and Miami fourth round. So that's kind of the matchup that I really want to see again. Mostly, Fils Zverev, and I think Fils has been very good since Indian Wells. Just a poor loss in Madrid, but these conditions are going to be better for him. So I'm kind of that's probably what I would expect.
I think so too, but it's a deadly second round still, Griekspoor or Kecmanovic. And they've been playing against each other too a lot. Well, actually both Talon and Miomir, but also Arthur and Talon is usually very close.
Yeah, they're going to be almost lottery matches, actually.
It's a big jungle. Unlike this section, where I think we are looking at Musetti or anyone. I mean, if Musetti isn't able to repeat his Madrid run, which technically these conditions are good for him, better than in Madrid, but at the same time, sure, some fatigue can come into play and everything like that. But if Musetti doesn't go far here, honestly, could be pick a name out of the hat. And I know you will say Brandon Nakashima, and I can't even say you're wrong.
Yeah, I mean, he's now consistently getting to fourth rounds of these events, and he's been seeded since Indian Wells and all the Masters, and I think he's made a fourth round except for Monte Carlo pretty much every time. So, and obviously lost 6-4 in the third to Medvedev in Madrid. I'm kind of still tempted to say Medvedev will get through if it's not Musetti, but I just think Musetti is so reliable right now. The 8 next to his name doesn't even feel wrong, and honestly he's backing it up every week. So if I were to pick again, it might be very chalky, but I'd probably go with him again.
Yeah,
but I'm
maybe.
very interested to see if a Brandon Musetti third round rematch of their U.S. Open meeting last year. I think Musetti probably takes it for sure, but I would love to watch it for sure.
I mean, I know I kind of gave you the permission to go all out on Brandon here, but mentioning the US Open match was a little too much for me.
Let's just say I hope all
Anyway,
the seeds play each other. I hope Popyrin and Medvedev play each other, and I hope Musetti and Nakashima play each other. That would be
yeah,
the
unless
best.
we get some very difficult qualifiers here. I mean, Popyrin and Medvedev should still be pretty likely to battle. And I guess here, yeah, Nakashima will be the favorite against Thompson or Mpechi Pericard on clay.
Yeah.
Maybe some chance for Hamad, but this is actually the draw that he had in Madrid, sort of. I mean, he was supposed to play Musetti in the second round and obviously didn't get there with that 3-hour battle against Echeverry. Maybe he can have some sort of a revenge arc here. Medvedev is probably like the one unseeded player that could just shake this all up. But yeah, of course, beating Musetti right away, that's a tough. Like if he had Medvedev, Popyrin, Nakashima in the second round, that would be a little maybe easier. Or maybe it's just easier to beat Musetti in his first match after Madrid than in the second match. Who knows? I mean, there's a lot of factors there that we can't really judge at this point, I guess. And there's also the second quarter, which we haven't touched on yet. And let's maybe do what we have to do. So basically talk about this match, Marozsan against Fonseca. To be honest with you, after Estoril, I have some doubts. I mean, the Joao forehand was not firing the same way it was against Tommy Paul. Some people have suggested to me that maybe this is because, he didn't play any clay warm-ups before Madrid. And sure, it could be contributing, but, in Madrid, he was on it. Like, he has 2% more experience, and he beats Tommy Paul in straight sets. He had 2 set points each. And Estoril, yeah, I mean, he just wasn't as comfortable. He had issues adjusting for sure. Obviously, Jesper de Jong, he came up with the occasional serve and volleying, drop shots. Everything was executed perfectly to keep Joao from playing his game. But it still wasn't the kind of ball striking that I wanted to see. It wasn't impressive. Like, watching that match, I was like, yeah, sure, it's Joao Fonseca. I've seen this guy a billion times now, but I actually enjoyed him more last year when he lost to Choinski. That was, oh yeah, this guy's something. And this time I was just like, yeah, this isn't what I know he can play. And yeah, I just wonder how his slow clay performances are going to look from here. Obviously not like for the whole future, but apparently in the Portuguese section of the press conference, which you can also find on Talking Tennis, by the way, even though some Brazilians tend to get angry at that for whatever reason. But you can also find it, and basically he said that he does feel a lot more comfortable in hard courts at the moment, that he wasn't expecting a result like the Buenos Aires title. And we know that this was obviously a huge struggle as well for him in a few matches. So I guess my expectations are a little lower than they would have been otherwise. And considering the draw here, I guess if he beats Marozsan, he's already defeated Rublev. Rublev tends to struggle recently against players who out-hit him. Menchik is another player whom we don't really know how he's going to perform in conditions like this. So the draw as a whole, like this section that we're looking at, the 16 players, if this was Madrid, I would have been probably screaming, yeah, Fonseca can get through this, all of this. But in Rome, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get a chance to see the match that he played in Estoril. I just know it was pretty bad, and he made a lot of errors, and he underperformed. But was some of that also because of the the pressure to play the 175 because of maybe appearance fees, or just the fact that he was signed up and he lost early? Or was there also some physical issues before, something in training or something? I remember John posting about that when he was there, about some issues in some practice sections, physical things.
Yeah, he talked about the shoulder, but I mean, John asked him about it, and he basically said it's not like a real injury. It's just, athlete's life, I think he called it. So I wouldn't really look at that too much, I don't think. Yeah.
Yeah, but the matchup against Marozsan is pretty tough right away. And yeah, maybe if that's still fresh in your mind, the Estoril performance, you're probably going to lower your expectations for Joao at this point.
Yeah, I do think that he is obviously very dangerous. It's possible he gets on a run. It's just not quite like Madrid, where you have to consider him as one of the players who can make a very massive impact there. He beats Paul, and he definitely makes it to that Draper fourth round, I believe, there. And then who knows what happens there. But yeah, nonetheless, here it's going to be a little bit more difficult at Roland Garros. But who knows? Maybe he'll just have a good training block and find something. Maybe it's really just a matter of that. Would like to hear which way Damien are leaning. I mean, this is just making us predict, which doesn't make much sense. I mean, is Fonseca the favorite? Yeah, but it's somewhat lukewarm. Let's just say that.
Yeah, he's probably a slighter favorite than he would have been if he beats Paul or he does better in Estoril. So he's a favorite, but only marginally, I think.
Yeah, like marginally is maybe a stretch, but definitely, not as much of a favorite as he was against Jesper, for example. Like that's maybe how I would put it. But yeah, also the opponent is pretty dangerous, not gonna lie. There are definitely better players he could have faced here, like better in the sense that they would have been more pleasant for him to tackle. So if not Fonseca, if we look at this whole 16-player section, I guess it's very open, and that's kind of what's still making me think, it's possible that he can go far, because you've got Rublev, who since he started working with Marat Safin, we haven't really seen the best of him yet. We haven't seen that flourish, let's say. We've got Menchik, who did very well in Madrid, but his slow play performances of late were tough, and I think he can get there with time. I think he already had great slow play performances in the past, just not recently, and he's probably not going to be as deadly as he was there when he was really relying on that serve to be just insane. Hurkacz, who's been struggling, Fritz, who also just came back from an injury and probably loses to Bonzi in Madrid if the Frenchman doesn't get injured. So it looks very open to me.
Yeah, it looks open, and I wonder how Fritz will look after Madrid, where obviously he still was like, kind of, was just coming back from the injury and didn't look great. But if Menchik and this whole gauntlet of Fonseca, Rublev, and Menchik, like one of them isn't there, or if Fritz is just feeling better, like I probably would still pick him. But he's kind of like a Pagula, like how Bakula was number 3, like Fritz is number 4. Like it's not a very strong number 4 right now for me, just given his form basically since February, outside of the Miami run.
Interesting. Joao says that Menchik is reliable enough to survive that mini section. I mean, I'd like to believe it, and I can very easily be persuaded into this. Just gotta see like one good match from him in conditions like this again, because I don't know, like Munich was just.
I hope we see that rematch, him and Fritz, Miami semifinal rematch.
U.S. Open third round rematch.
Yeah.
That wasn't a great match on Jakub's 18th birthday, but indeed, of course, recently they had another encounter which was a lot more competitive. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of potential for good matches here. That's for sure. Like that, Menchik Fonseca round 3, for example. I mean, bring it on. It's the next gen finals again, the best dead rubber in history, right? And for what it's worth, I think Menchik will probably get through his first round anyway. He's not facing. I mean, he's facing an out of form Rinderknecht and an in-form Gigante, but someone who tends to be streaky as hell. So I guess the possibility for him is definitely there, but it's an open draw, and probably I would suggest that nobody of these 16 players is going to win the title.
Probably Rublev got the toughest hand in this section, right?
I think so, and it's unfortunately for him yet again that he got the toughest options in the draw. And somewhat similarly to the third quarter, was it on the women's side? I think this second one on the men's is just much weaker than anything else. You've got this is the second part of it, and it just kind of looks like another one of these draws where Alex de Minaur is solid enough to get through a few rounds, and then he runs into, I don't know, someone who is redlining and loses.
Yeah, maybe even a good chance for him to get to the semis. I mean, he has he's in like that. He'll play that winner of like that Fritz or Koch Menchik section, and like a lot of good opponents. But there's just Alex's floor so high that you just pick him against all of these guys, like especially Felix or Borges in the third round. Felix being the seed, he's not a very strong seed right now. In fact, his form has been terrible since February, right? Since reaching the Dubai final, like he's only won one match or something.
Yeah, he won one match in Miami. That's it.
Yeah. And then Mahach, I think we'll probably end up getting a Paul and de Minaur fourth round, honestly.
Yeah, I think Arnaldi is probably the biggest threat for Paul. Could have been Mahach, but he's also struggling right now physically and game-wise, it seems, as well, after the loss to Fernley in Madrid. Felix, I think, is the underdog to Nuno in the second round if Nuno gets there. And this just looks like another one of these where Alex de Minaur is just solid enough to get through a few rounds. He won't win the title, but he will go pretty deep. and then lose to somebody. This clay season so far, he's lost to Alcaraz and Musetti. Musetti twice, of course, and then that's a very good representation of where Alex is right now at the moment, I think.
But I would like to see another run from Thomas Mahach, because I think he's like maybe the most talented in this whole section.
I'd love to see that, but yeah, just don't have too much trust in it right now. Joao even says that Borges defeats Aliassime easily. Very possible. I mean, Nuno, I think, was struggling like with the emotional side of Estoril, as in like really wanting to do well in front of that heavy, setting, the massive crowd. I think it takes a lot out of him, the same way that the challenger in Maya used to in his hometown before he won it. And I think he might play better here. He's also defending a 4th round points, which I know it included some crazy matches along the way, like Martinez and Passaro. By the way, Passaro, another guy who might fall out of the top 150 over these 2 weeks, because he's defending both the 3rd round here and then the Turin title. Anyway,
he beat Musetti in the final to win the Turin title, right?
Precisely, yeah. And I think Musetti was like top 20 then or thereabouts. Maybe it was Fils who was top 20 and won Bordeaux, but Musetti was very high anyway. But yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think, this is more or less it. Let's just general question about the men's draw then. What's your feeling regarding this? Are we gonna get Sinner Alcaraz first big title final?
Dude, I think it's honestly looking it's looking likelier than it could have looked more unlikely than this if I hadn't seen the draw. But like if Sinner gets through Cerundolo, I don't see how he loses the quarters and the semis. That's kind of how I feel. Like the semis is even more of a guarantee for him than even the quarters. He's going to most likely play either Fritz or de Minaur, and those guys are his pigeons, quite frankly. So yeah, if Sinner gets by Cerundolo, he's making the final, I think.
Yeah, I think that's true. And also, bearing injuries, I believe the only way that Carlos Alcaraz doesn't make it into Roland Garros as the favorite is if Sinner wins Rome, especially if Sinner beats him on the way to the title. So that's kind of like the only way where I see Rome changing who my favorite for the French will be, if Sinner beats him on the way to the title, which obviously would have to be in the final here. So not really on the way, but for the title. And yeah, I think the final is likely. Sinner's draw, first 3 matches are difficult.
Sinner's first 3 rounds are much tougher than Alcaraz's first 3 rounds, but then Alcaraz's next 3 rounds are much tougher than Sinner's. Or the next 2, I guess, until the final. But yeah.
I guess the semi only.
Yeah, the quarter would be...
I don't expect Draper to be in great shape by the time he
Rune
reaches
is playing really well, I think that quarterfinal could be very tricky for Carlos.
Sure. If Rune gets there and if he's healthy and playing well, sure. I think Draper, I don't really expect him to be like in great shape by the quarters, considering he would have to go back to back. Yeah. And also, he's also one of these players like Menchik and Fonseca who are somewhat untested in slow clay conditions, I'd say, still. So yeah, that's kind of my feeling about this. Carlos is the favorite, but if Yannick beats him on the way to the title, he might as well steal that number 1 spot ahead of Roland Garros again. But yeah, that's obviously going to be the biggest story of the week. Yannick Sinner, how he returns to the sport and how quickly he's going to be back on it, and he has to be back on it pretty quickly if he wants to go far. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Any final thoughts about either draw? What are you most looking forward to this week? Is there more, maybe like a first round match that we didn't mention and you're like desperate to watch it?
I don't know, to be honest. These 32 seed draws, like they don't often have really great like first rounds. Like
Very
that's
true.
Like maybe there's more on the women's side, but like in this I'm kind of just want to wait until Thursday or Friday to get like really into the popcorn stuff, because I don't know if there's any like first round matches that are like super entertaining. At least not.
I agree. I totally agree. I think a lot of people look at it like that, and I think it is the case that even for me, someone who typically enjoys tournaments with these sort of like players from these rankings, I think there are a lot of matches I would be just desperate to watch if they happened on the Challenger Tour. But on the ATP Tour, I don't really mind. Like Wednesday and Thursday, very often I just look at the schedule and I'm like, okay, there's not that much to watch really. 1 or 2 matches, but otherwise there's a lot of like irrelevant matches for the event. Whereas if they happened on the Challenger Tour, I guess there would just be a bigger story, because there would be some of the best players in the draw clashing, some of the names we usually don't see on that circuit. But yeah, here I don't get that interested in them, I guess, for the most part. And I totally agree with that. I mean, I want to see if Jordan Thompson continues his domination over Giovanni Pecci Pericard, for example. But I guess that's more of a quirky match than actually one I want to watch from start to finish.
Yeah, and then there's like a lot of matches that I'm interested in the result, but I don't know if I'd like watch them from start to finish. Like maybe Arnaldi and Bautista Agut is another one where like I don't know if I'd watch it, but I'm kind of interested to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, Arnaldi just lost to Gasquet a month ago, so I don't think he's a guarantee to win this. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to watch it either. So that makes sense for me as an example. Anyway, then, I mean, thank you to everybody involved. By the way, Nurlan, I mean, there can be another producer apart from John. Like I've produced some stuff before. I think we used to have a couple more people, but typically it's going to be John 95% of the time. We just tend to say producer for reasons that probably should stay behind closed doors. But anyway, this time it was John. He just left along the way, since I handled everything so beautifully with my skills of showing the screen and showing the draws on the screen. Anyway, thank you, Vansh. This was obviously great to talk to you about the draw. Now I know what to watch. I know what not to watch. And I'm excited for the rest of the week. Watching this back in Poland already, and tomorrow, of course, it starts already on the women's side.
Yeah, this might be the most excited I've ever been for a 1000 this year combined on both tours, aside from Miami when I was actually there. But probably this, just because it feels the most relevant when it comes to RG and.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. So that's like the real test that we have ahead of Roland Garros for a lot of players. Especially considering Madrid is so different in terms of the conditions. So yeah, if we want to like learn a lot in regards to what's the power ranking, the power balance will be in Paris, this is the event. So yeah, once more, thank you guys. And it's going to be a lot of content. Mario is in Rome this week, but I don't think we can film there. So it's probably going to be, tweets and maybe like some articles like John showed you, but there's going to be watch along content and everything like that. So, keep talking tennis, keep subscribing, liking, and all that. I don't want to say a bad word. Anyway, never mind. I'm starting to get carried away. So yeah, bye guys. Thank you. And we'll see you some other time.
Yep. See ya. Thanks.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.